Welcome to the Flynn Brothers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea: the supersized world of competitive eating.
John's brief history becomes Jim's brief history as my brother discusses the origins and evolution of eating contests.
Later, we talk about what it takes to be a competitive eater and why the sport has generated so much controversy.
Finally, Jim regales us with tales of his most impressive eating accomplishments.
It's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this past weekend was quite a weekend of eating. It coincided with my 30th birthday. Isn't that cool, buddy?
Hey, happy
30th.
birthday.
Thank you. I'm sure all our listeners excited to hear that. I'm sure some of them already wished me a happy birthday. And those that haven't, it's never too late for me. A month late, I don't care. As long as you wish it, I don't mind at all.
Yeah, lordy, look who's 30. Huh?
That's right. And, we ate a lot, as we are wont to do when it's a celebration based around me. This past few days, we had another beautiful meal at Musso and Frank's there in Hollywood. We had some stovetop mac and cheese. We had a late night In-N-Out run. We had a lot of cake.
How many times would you wager that you have cooked stovetop mac and cheese?
Boy, that's, we're focused on eating this episode, not cooking, but you don't have enough fingers and toes. But something I've noticed, something you've told me, something other people have told me, I am a very entertaining eater. And typically with people who eat a lot, they can either eat very fast or they can eat a large quantity. I find I can do both. I can eat a lot fast. From your perspective, what is it like watching me eat?
That's like watching a shark swim through water. You're just in your element. It's what millions of years of evolution have made you capable of doing. You are just someone who can really put it away in an impressive capacity. There's often a time, and I can eat as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll hit a point where I'm like, I'm done. And you blow past it like a great marathon runner.
My fiance calls it growing a second stomach. There are certain foods you can grow a second, like you just can eat endlessly. Mac and cheese, of course. Committed listeners of the podcast will know that's, I can get a third, fourth stomach, a couple of intestines, a couple of esophagi.
You could get a middle intestine.
Yeah. And, it's something I somewhat pride myself on, being an entertaining eater. And it's something I've been fascinated by, just eating and competitive eating in general. Not just as a kid watching Nathan's hot dog contest and TV shows like Man vs. Food, and then, those videos, Epic Meal Time. And of course, nowadays there's so many videos of mukbangs and people making huge meals and going to restaurants and stuff. Food has really permeated the culture in this way. And it's interesting, right? If you eat a lot of food, if you're addicted to food, if you binge eat, it's not like alcohol or drugs, right? We've talked about this on the podcast before. Alcohol and drugs, that's not stuff you need to survive. Food is something you need to survive. So to have a binge eating disorder or an addiction to food is so unique compared to an addiction to things like drugs, alcohol, sex, stuff like that.
You can't quit it cold turkey. You can't swear off the stuff for good.
Right.
You got to always be dabbling, dancing on that line, teetering towards danger.
But as we've evolved as a culture, formerly, before farming and surpluses and globalization, we were just eating to survive. And now it seems like some of us, myself included, eat for spectacle. And so that's what we're going to sort of discuss today. We're going to dive into not only our own eating habits somewhat, but really the world of competitive eating, a world we've always been very fascinated by. I think people are vaguely familiar with Nathan's hot dog and the fact that there are eating contests. Maybe you've been to a state fair and seen a pie eating contest, but we're really going to dive in and leave no stone unturned, no hamburger unturned. What would you do if you were reinventing it for food? This idiom?
No hot dog unconsumed in two bites.
No bun undipped in a thing of water to choke down. So we're going to start off. We usually do John's brief history, but you allowed me to do the brief history on this scene as I'm sort of the resident expert on eating massive quantities as fast as possible. So this is going to be Jim's brief history of competitive eating. And of course, we must start, as we always do with these brief histories, at the very beginning. The ancient precursor to competitive eating was feasts.
Yes.
Feasts. Even since back in medieval times, we had feasts. And feasts back then, it'd celebrate a marriage of royalty or a great victory in battle. And people would eat for weeks at a time. You go back and read these books, these histories. It's people in a castle or in a kingdom eating for weeks at a time. People just, the cook's constantly bringing quail and chickens and ducks and
whole pigs, I imagine.
And cooked in pie crusts and all these the many dishes we still have today. Their ancient precursor is feast. Do you think that is something that you would find appealing to eat and be slothful for weeks on end?
I don't know that I could do it for weeks on end. Usually after Thanksgiving and the I guess we sort of still somewhat do it with the Thanksgiving to Christmas, but at the end of that, I'm usually feeling pretty burnt out on overconsumption and just feeling like, oh God, I need to keep it a little bit more straight and narrow so that I can build up my capacity to feast again.
You wonder if the accounts of medieval times, Renaissance, these different eras of nobility, if they were a little hyperbolic, a little overdrawn in terms of how long they were eating for, right? It's like in the Bible when certain figures are hundreds of years old, right? Was Methuselah 800 years old, or is this just a symbolic way of communicating he was a great and holy man? We'll never know, perhaps.
What I sort of wonder, too, is maybe even further back when you killed a truly large animal, a woolly mammoth or of some sort, would you, I guess they had ways of some of it of preserving the meat, but I'd have to imagine that there was some advantage to being able to consume just a ton of mammoth meat. Right?
With this protein-crazed world we have, I mean, I have asked to assume mammoth was quite high in protein, right? It's like, high in iron, all the very healthy, I assume. Very healthy. The first competitive eater ever I found was an Englishman by the name of Nicholas Wood, and his eating habits were detailed by writer Jonathan Taylor in his 17th century pamphlet titled, this is the actual full title, The Great Eater of Kent, or Part of the Admirable Teeth and Stomachs Exploits of Nicholas Wood of Harrison in the county of Kent, his excessive manner of eating without manners in strange and true manner. A little redundant hitting manner all those times, although somewhat stylistic in its writing, isn't it?
Yes, we didn't really hit upon using short things for titles, just a few word phrases until quite long into human history.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this, particularly on our Moby Dick episode. In days before TV, the internet, people wanted to be entertained for a long time. People wanted to read long, in-depth things and spend a lot of their leisure time doing that. But here were some of the teeth and stomachs exploits of Nicholas Wood. It was claimed that Nicholas Wood ate a whole raw sheep once. Where would you start if you were eating a whole raw sheep?
God.
Hooves.
He ate the hooves, too?
That's a whole raw sheep.
The bones?
I don't know. That's what he says.
A chop, like something good to start.
Another time he ate 400 pigeons.
Wow. That is... just the amount of bones. I guess was he just crunching those bones? Maybe he was crunching pigeon bones.
Maybe they were just
because if you were just
bones in those days.
Little tiny nibbling around every little bit of pigeon, that takes so long. You'd have to just be kind of horking them down.
Another time he ate 7 dozen rabbits. 7 times 12. What, 96?
It's never been a good one for me. 7 times 12. I think it's 84.
You're right. It's because 7 times 11 is 70. Yeah, it's 84. Good God. Anyway, 84 rabbits. Nicholas Wood, he performed at fairs and festivals, and they would often place wagers on his eating. So this is very much part of competitive eating. You have to be doing it for an audience, right? There doesn't necessarily have to be an exchange of money, but competitive eating you have to do for an audience. If I'm speed eating stovetop mac and cheese in the dead of night in the privacy of my home, that is not competitive eating. That could be training, perhaps, but that is not competitive eating. It needs, again, this sense of spectacle, this sense of audience. Nicholas Wood was nicknamed he had a few different ones. One was the most exorbitant punchmonger. He was also nicknamed Duke All Punch, and he was also nicknamed the Kentish Tenterbelly. I'm not sure what tenterbelly, like it's up like a tent and sticks out.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that. That seems right to me.
I think if I overeat next time at Musso and Frank's, you can call me Duke All Punch.
I was partial to the most exorbitant punchmonger myself.
Punchmonger. That is really something. Do you think this is true? Like, do you think that in order for it to be considered competitive eating, there needs to be these public displays? There needs to be this sense of spectacle and showmanship. Is this really the essence of what competitive eating is?
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, if you're just eating a ton of food on your own, you're just a glutton. You're just somebody who's stuffing your face. You just have a problem. Whereas if you're doing it in a public display, you are offering this gift, quote unquote, that you have for the enjoyment of others, and it probably spurs you on to ever greater feats of consumption.
It reminds me of a time when I was in high school, and our high school cafeteria served cups of chili. And the chili was notoriously very hot, not in terms of spice, but in the temperature they would serve it. It'd be like a McDonald's coffee, you could just scald yourself. And so the fellas, what we would do is we'd get up in teams of 2, and each team would have a cup of chili, and we would speed eat the chili as fast as we could, even though it was burning hot. So it'd be like, go, and then you'd get a couple bites in, and some guys would like spit it out because it was burning their tongue, and then you just kick it over to your teammate who had to fall on the sword next. And part of what made it so fun is we were all laughing and suffering together, and it was really such a memorable moment. But it is so, I think, intrinsic to competitive eating. You need that sense of spectacle. You need that sense of an audience. Even if the fellow participants are part of the audience, you need that sense of spectacle.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for those who are wondering, yes, my brother and I both attended all boys high schools.
Yeah. What would the gals have thought of that in high school?
I don't know if you'd have been asked to any Sadie Hawkins dances.
Yeah. Who are you taking to the dance? The guy who speed eats chili.
He's really fast.
He's really. It's as if his mouth cannot feel temperature.
So being the egotist that I lended you my brief history. However, when I saw it, there's something that I've seen rattling around the internet that I wanted to sort of bring to your attention.
I see here in the outline you kind of weaseled in here and added your own little brief history within the brief history. I'll let you go for it.
So this is an internal brief history. This is a guy who I think just comes up on the internet every now and again. Like, have you ever heard of? And his name is Terrer. He is a medical oddity from France. I'm just going to read the Wikipedia page, which I've gone through a few times. They're just great. Per Wikipedia, he traveled around France in the company of a band of prostitutes and thieves before becoming the warm-up act for a traveling charlatan. Like prostitutes, thieves, and a charlatan.
This guy was a sinner. Huh?
Yeah,
he was a sinner.
No question. In this act, he swallowed corks, stones, live animals, and a whole basket full of apples. He could eat a quarter of a cow in a day. He ate a meal intended for 15 people in one sitting. He would eat snakes, lizards, and eels without chewing. And he just had this very strange medical condition that they've never really been able to pin down. I'm going to read you some of his symptoms. When he had not eaten, his skin hung so loosely that he could wrap the fold of skin from his abdomen around his waist. So imagine taking your gut and wrapping it around your waist. this. When full, his abdomen distended, quote, like a huge balloon. The skin of his cheeks was wrinkled and hung loosely, and when stretched out, he could hold 12 eggs or apples in his mouth.
Oh,
He's
God.
kind of like a man with like a python. Like
He's
body.
like a circus freak or
Yes.
like a geek, right? Where
Yes.
you'll eat or do anything for entertainment.
Exactly. This, I thought, is also the funniest part. His body was hot to the touch, and he sweated heavily. He constantly had a foul body odor. He was described as smelling, quote, to such a degree that he could not be endured within the distance of 20 paces.
Ugh.
The smell became noticeably worse after he had eaten. His eyes and cheeks became bloodshot. A visible vapor rose from his body, and he became lethargic, during which time he belched noisily.
Like me after eating at Musso's,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It really is just like, what was going on with this guy?
I always wonder about this with these ancient and mythical figures and these biological anatomical oddities. If it was just conjecture, or that we just didn't have as much science and medicine and corrective measures as we do now, and these people were just allowed to like live and somehow live a long time and have these exploits, and it just really is fascinating, isn't it?
It truly is. I mean, it's one of those things that like probably would have been lost to history without the internet, and they still haven't like pinned down what medical condition this is. Like nobody else has this. Like this was just the one guy who came out weird, and he would just eat anything, truly anything, insatiable appetite.
And this guy was like 18th, 19th
Yeah,
century,
yeah,
right?
18th century.
Well,
yeah.
that brings us kind of to where my brief history left off, which is following Nicholas Wood. As we kind of get into the 1800s, we have the advent of gluttony contests, which we know nowadays is like pie eating contests, hot dog eating contests. And these were popular at fairs, festivals, taverns, etc. In 1878, there was the first ever recorded pie eating contest in Toronto. I found it hilarious that Canada was the site of like, it's like as America, it's like as an American, I'm kind of jealous it wasn't us. Like, we're not Rochester. Like, what the hell? Like, why was it in Toronto? You know what I mean?
I hear you.
In 1909, a fellow by the name of Frank Dotzler, in an eating contest, consumed 275 oysters, 8 1/8 pounds of steak, 12 rolls, and 3 large pies, all washed down with 11 cups of coffee. Staggering. I think the grossest is 275 oysters. I mean, I can do 1, maybe 2 oysters and appreciate the flavor. I have friends who can do like a dozen or 2 dozen. It's a little nauseating. But 275, I mean, that is just staggering. By the way, this eating contest occurred at the Manhattan Fat Men's Club. These were actual things that occurred in the 1900s, Fat Men's Club. They were big in kind of the, like I said, 1900s. They were clubs for 200-plus pound men. So, obviously, we'd both be ineligible
Yes,
for membership. Okay, fine. Just one of us would be ineligible.
You might squeak in there.
I might squeak in
After
under
a
the
big
wire.
meal, yeah, you might
I'd be
squeak
the
in there.
smallest guy in there. Why not? But it was funny because at the time, obviously, and this was the case up to this point in human history, fat was associated with wealth, right? You were wealthy if you were big. You had a surplus. You had enough to eat and then some. But then as time went on and obesity was associated more with lower income people and not as associated as much with wealth, they kind of fell out of favor. So you're not going to see many Fat Men's Club these days.
I say let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back.
Let's bring
right?
it back. I mean, I think, gonna be a good time. Like, if you're owning up to being fat, like, you're not ashamed of it. You're just like, yeah, I'm in the Fat Men's Club. Like, great T-shirts, double XL minimum, obviously. And I'm sure the business connections
Yes.
would be
Oh,
excellent.
my God.
Aren't you,
Yes,
if you see
yes.
another larger man, aren't you
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
a sense of kinship between you?
Well, if tall people are, it's just studies show they have more success in life. Just how our society views tall people. A lot of tall people can be, have big appetites and be big guys. So what? You're just gonna have a bunch of big, tall, successful people, and
Yeah.
you'd have to organize dances with some women's club. Obviously, I don't know how many women's clubs would be lining up to go, do a mixer with the fat men's club, but perhaps there are some out there that would be willing. This is very hilarious regarding the origin of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So allegedly, the first Nathan's hot dog eating contest took place in 1916 on Coney Island. But in the 70s, it was revealed that the year of origin is actually a total invention, a publicity stunt used to build lore for the competition to make it seem like, oh, it's over a century old. I think they developed this in the 70s. So it was purported it maybe was more in the kind of mid 20th century it originally began. But it is the most famous eating competition. They have it every 4th of July there on Coney Island. You can usually watch it on ESPN. I can only stomach, no pun intended, watching it for 2 minutes before I just get revolted.
I would prefer to read about it. I like to hear. It's, wow, 76 hot dogs. Boy, that is a lot of hot dogs.
Yes.
I don't need to see him put them down.
No,
I'll take your word for it.
The worst part for me, I don't mind the eating so much. The grossest though is the dipping of buns in water, and the soggy bun will get on their face, and you see them sweating. 'Cause it's summer, New York, humid, hot. Ugh, it's so disgusting.
To me,
so disgusting.
To me, though, the dipping is what makes it the sport element of it, that you are setting aside your enjoyment of a hot dog. Will dipping the bun in water help you get more of these down your gullet? Yes, then you must do it. If you wish to win, if you wish to compete, then you have to do something a little bit gross and unpleasant.
It's NBA teams. We used to like playing in the post, but you know what? 3 points is more than 2 points, so we take more 3-pointers. We'd like to play the other way, but this way is going to give us the best chance of winning. I will say this, though. Maybe I'm a bit of an old-school gluttony contest fan. I'm a fellow who belongs in those 18th century, 19th century taverns. I don't like the dipping. To me, not that it's like a PED or it's cheating, but I just think you gotta, whatever it is, you eat that. I just think, maybe you should be allowed water, but dipping, I don't like that. I think you should have to do it dry. That is what I would say is my hot take on these eating contests. You can sip water, but no dipping. You can sip, no dip. Sip, no dip. That's me protesting Nathan's hot dogs. Sip, no dip. Sip, no dip.
I can, sort of sympathize with your disgust of it, and at the same time, I appreciate these guys. You have to dip it, and where is the line between sipping and dipping? You're pouring it as you're taking the dog. I think we don't want anybody. We don't need to break out the Heimlich maneuver.
No, that's a slippery slope. In 1997, we have the establishment of the MLE, Major League Eating, which hosts 70 to 80 competitions a year, including Nathan's hot dog. They do a variety of eating competitions, whether it's hot wings, pizza, cheeseburgers, pie, ice cream. I remember watching one as a kid, and they were speed eating bowls of mayonnaise.
Oh.
And some will be rather revolting.
Oh, God.
But
it's awful.
That's, if you're an athlete, you got to want it,
I
You think
guess.
basketball players like lifting weights and running on the treadmill? No, but it gives you the best chance of winning.
You're comparing this to eating bowls of mayo? I would just hate to be the guy who's the specialist in that. I mean, talk about,
awful.
speaking of the bowls of chili, chicks not being into it. Can you imagine I'm married to the mayo bowl goblin king.
This episode is really for gross dudes.
Yeah.
It is. So gross dudes who haven't turned off the episode yet, thank you.
Yeah.
This one's for you.
This is for all the most exorbitant punch mongers out there.
In 2008, we have the premiere of one of our favorite shows of all time, Man vs. Food. It was a travel show where host Adam Richman took down eating competitions at local restaurants across America. It was a very, very cool show. It had a really awesome combination of like culinary knowledge, humor, and then just like genuinely stirring athletic prowess. Where this guy, Adam Richman, he wasn't like a competitive eater. He was just a big dude who liked to eat. And he would take on really spicy competitions or really big quantity competitions or speed eat competitions, ice cream, steak, whatever it was, he would go after it. And he only did it for 3 years. He had to retire due to health reasons, go figure. But at the end of the day, he had a 62% win percentage over food. So really, in the 3 years, man took on food. We did okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a more debauched version of diners, drive-ins, and dives. Adam Richman's the only guy I've ever really seen who's equally, if not quite equally as good as Guy Fieri, but comparable to Guy Fieri in the back area of a kitchen. And it truly is what you're describing. It was a man's will. I don't know about athletic prowess, but it was sheer will and showmanship, kind of like professional wrestling, I would say, would be the feel that he gave it. And it's like, can I do this thing that's going to make me uncomfortable? That's going to result in my suffering. And then there would be crowds gathered around and they would be chanting for him to, eat the 70 hot wings or whatever. It was a great show, an absolute beauty of a cable program. I mean, just made for that peak era of sort of cable TV.
One of the most rewatchable, enjoyable shows ever to be birthed by cable. That brings us to present day. The history is thus brought into the present. We have what I would call now the Foodstagram era, where it's just this celebration of how beautiful food can look, how much people can eat, where you can go to these restaurants. There's very much this nowadays with international travel or New York restaurants, LA restaurants, hotspot restaurants. There is this democratization, right? It's not like, oh, you have to be from Italy to know about this dish in this restaurant, right? With Instagram, with these social media sites, you can really share and democratize all these things. And I think that's really cool. I think it also can kind of breed feelings of gluttony and greed and excess and these things that, competitive eating can be guilty of as well. But that is essentially the era we're living in. People love they love the cooking channel and the Food Network, and now it's all gone online, and you could just, our Instagram feed through my own fault is just full of videos of people making macaroni and cheese.
Do you think we've passed the peak popularity of competitive eating?
I definitely think we're kind of at it right now, and I don't know. I think we're slowly entering an era where even though like obesity is as high of rate as ever, I do think we're probably hitting a tipping point. It's like we definitely need to urge toward a healthier nation and just healthier mindset as a world.
Yeah, I'd say we've been sort of indulging as a nation for quite a while. I would say, I see it when Adam Richman was doing it. I almost think of that kind of as like the real peak era. I remember there being like these food competitions were more on like the obscure ESPN channels. I don't really recall seeing that too often recently. And I think it maybe had a little bit more of its moment when there was the, Joey Chestnut, Kobayashi sort of rivalry. That is sort of what is, I think, diminished it as Joey Chestnut has vanquished his foe, and no one's really stepped up to kind of challenge him. And we love a rivalry.
You're telling me I gotta hit the training room and get ready to take on the Chestnut. All
Man, I bet if you take on the Chestnut, you might change that sip no dip sort of stance, or you're dead in the water against Joey C.
All right, well, we gotta wolf some hot dogs. We'll be right back. I would now like to discuss what I believe to be the rules and procedures of competitive eating. From my understanding, there are really 3 types of competitive eating contests. There is a speed-based contest, how fast can you eat it? There is a quantity-based contest, how much can you eat? Or there is a kind of what I'll call gimmick-based contest. So the gimmick being how many of these super spicy wings can you eat, or how much of this cold ice cream can you eat before getting a brain freeze, right? Another gimmick would be like what we were talking about before the break, where people are eating bowls of mayonnaise, right? Where it's like super gross, right? Are there any other I missed? I think those are kind of the main ones, right?
No, those are the main ones. One thing that I've always wondered is why my brother hasn't entered a milkshake drinking or ice cream eating contest, because you, and I don't know anyone else who is like this, are immune to brain freezes.
It's like I'm Terrare or something.
Yes.
But it is true. I've never had a brain freeze. When I was a kid, I remember distinctly, Dad would sometimes take us to get a Slurpee at 7-Eleven, and he took me intentionally just to see if I would get a brain freeze, because he had observed I would drink smoothies, milkshakes, never get a brain freeze, and he did. He's like, have as much, try to have it as fast as you can, kind of egging me on, and I was just like, just like drink as fast as I can, put down half of that thing, and was like, yeah, I'm good, and he's like, oh, incredible,
It's a marvel.
It's like the worst superhero
Yeah.
ever.
Yes.
Can't get a brain freeze guy, Let me ask you this. Which of the three do you think you would be most successful at? The speed eating, the quantity-based, or kind of the gimmick-based eating contest?
I am a very fast eater, embarrassingly so, to the point where if I'm not thinking about it consciously, I will just devour meals before other people have gotten even halfway through, and then I have to apologize for my poor manners. I would be much better at a speed contest.
Yes. I think so too. I eat very fast. I do think if you put a massive amount in front of me, I can summon the Adam Richman-like will to put it all down. I am very much someone who, no matter what size you put in front of me, I'm just going to have whatever you put in front of me. So if you put a half a sandwich and, a cup of soup, all right, fine. That'll be my lunch. But if you put down a whole pizza, it's like, that's all for me? It's a lot of pizza, but I'll do my best, That's kind of my mindset. One thing I find fascinating, this kind of has to do with our sip or dip debate. Some of these competitions require you to swallow all the food before it's counted, right? So if you're eating a massive amount of food, you have to swallow it. However, some competitions allow what is called chipmunking. What would you guess chipmunking is? It's pretty obvious by the name.
Filling your cheeks.
You're on your mouth, you mean?
Yes,
in your face. Yes, it is where you cram as much food as possible into your mouth before the time runs out or the competition ends, and that counts. As long as you get it in your face hole, then you're good. You don't have to swallow it down your gullet. Where do you stand on chipmunking, pro or anti?
Anti. Strongly anti. That isn't consuming anything. It's just stuffing it into your face.
So you are pro dip, anti-chipmunking.
Yeah.
I am anti-dip, pro-sip, pro-chipmunking. I actually am okay with the chipmunking.
What?
I think it's in your body. Here's the thing though, for chipmunking, your lips need to touch. You can't you can't have it just crammed in your mouth and your mouth's open. Your lips need to you need to seal it. It needs to be in your body. Fair enough. So when the buzzer goes off, your lips need to be sealed. The judge holds up a magnifying glass to make sure there's contact, and then it's like you're good, and then you're allowed to chew and have some separation. But I think if you're chipmunking, they got to do the sealed lip rule. Boy, we really have some good ideas. I think we could go in front of the MLE with a couple bullet points and really.
They would be like, we have considered this, many times. What do you think this is?
Obviously, in most eating contests, if you vomit, you're disqualified. I think everyone would agree that is like a cardinal rule of eating contests, right? You got to keep it in the body, right?
The vomiting, it's a ultimate party foul. It's like that.
Yeah.
We are meant to push beyond and conquer the limits of the human body, not be forced to come face to face with them in their most disgusting visible form.
It's a good rule of thumb in life. If you can, in public, keep things in your body. Sneezing is okay, right? Sneezing is something where if you have to expel stuff out of your body, get a tissue, it's a little embarrassing, whatever.
Well, you hide it. You hide
right,
your
exactly.
sneeze.
You hide it. But it's like never in life in public, just as a greater point on this issue, you never want things coming out of your body in public, right? Whether you're expelling waste, whether you're vomiting, burps, farts, you always want to keep the stuff in your body in public, right?
Right. Emotions, thoughts, feelings.
Right. And then the last thing, eating competitions, we mentioned the spectacle, we mentioned the audience, the fanfare. They also always need an MC or judges or some type of referee. I like this notion that there needs to be some structure and some order. I think it's inherent and intrinsic to competitive eating, don't you think?
Yes, totally agreed. It gives the fanfare, the panache, the showmanship that's needed to make it just not a bunch of people stuffing their faces as fast as they can.
I want to now move on to how you can train to be a competitive eater. Now, before I get into this, I do want to add a disclaimer that every single competitive eating governing body discourages these training methods. They completely advise against them. So I just want to mention that. Having said that, we are still going to go through them because most competitive eaters still do these things in order to get the leg up on the competition. It's so funny. It's the only sport where probably governing bodies advise against training.
Yeah.
Don't train. Just show up. Yeah. Just show up and eat as much as you can.
It's
right?
like the NBA. Don't practice dribbling or jump shots.
yeah. NFL. No tackling. Don't tackle ever in practice, right? So good. So one thing people do in order to train to be a competitive eater is stretch their stomachs. And the way you do that is you drink incredible amounts of water or eat low-calorie foods such as salad or veggies. And it's all in an effort to stretch your stomach. You're basically eating and drinking things that are going to expand your stomach. And you're essentially just training your stomach to take on lots of food, to take on lots of matter. It's the same as, practicing Euro steps or jump stops in basketball. You're getting your knees, you're getting your calves, you're getting your lower body ready to do these moves in game.
Yeah, that seems right. I can see why they would discourage against it, though. I mean, your stomach would probably tear. I'm assuming there's some danger of that.
I guess a better comparison I could have done in athletics is stretching.
Yeah.
That would have been a one. Another thing to train your body is having a very low body fat percentage. You'll notice that most competitive eaters are not fat. I'm sure all the ones you think of, Kobayashi, Joey Chestnut, Matt Stoney, I believe is his name. They're all very skinny guys, right? They look like they play a lot of video games. They go on a lot of runs, stuff like that. And this is due to what is known in the competitive eating world as the belt of fat theory. And that essentially means if you have too much fat in your midsection, your stomach cannot stretch enough to fit the required amount of food that you need to eat in order to win. So the fat essentially prevents your stomach from expanding to its possible limits.
It's interesting. It's like the stomach and your skin are more stretchy than fat, which you wouldn't necessarily think of as being the case. I sort of think of fat as, being quite malleable, but apparently not.
The belt of fat theory works, I think, for several reasons. I don't really think you can find a theory that supports having a belt of fat. I don't think there are many that encourage that, unless you're a bear in hibernation. I can't really think of a belt of fat theory where it's pro belt of fat.
The strong men, I think if you're going to lift a ton of weight, you need a little bit of maybe cushioning to help you. It is interesting, though, because, to train yourself or to eat these massive quantities, these guys are obviously consuming massive amounts of calories, and so to also remain relatively trim is pretty impressive, but they're not like ripped either. I would imagine that muscle is also not something you probably want very much of in your midsection.
No, probably not. You just want to allow your stomach to expand and not have too many things interfering with that, I should say. Another thing competitive eaters will do to train is chew gum. This helps to build jaw strength. I'm sure everyone has had the sensation. I usually get it when I'm eating a sandwich with kind of tougher bread where you're chewing chewing and chewing, or maybe you're eating a steak and you're chewing, you get a sore jaw, So you really want to prevent that. That's the last thing you want when you're competitive eating. It's like an athlete getting cramps in the most crucial part of a game,
Yeah, wow, we're really drawing a lot of parallels to true athletes.
Well,
here.
it is a true sport, a true athletics. We'll talk about that later, though. Let's save the good stuff. Let me ask you this, though. Actually, let's just get into it now. Do you think competitive eating is a sport? We are making the comparisons to athletics. Do you think, and do you consider competitive eating a sport?
I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty fine line. I think it's a competition. I think it's is the Great British Bake Off a sport? No, but it's like, and that requires skill, that requires willpower, that requires preparation, that requires a lot of these things that competitive eating does. To me, it's kind of just almost off on its own. I don't see it as quite a sport, but I am impressed by the usage of the body in the way that the top-level competitive eaters use it.
The parallels it has with sports is, it's difficult. You have to train. Not everyone can do it. But yeah, I think it almost fits in the category more as a competition.
Yeah.
It's not a sport, it's not athletics, but it is competition. You are doing something competitively. I don't think chess is a sport, but chess is something you do competitively, right?
I'd put it in the chess category.
Yeah, like it's not a hobby. You can do it professionally.
Yeah.
You can do it to acclaim and to fame.
Yeah.
But it isn't quite a sport.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it's quite a sport.
Even though it does use the body, which is, chess is much more of a mental.
Is the stomach a muscle?
It's an organ.
Organ,
yeah,
right? It's not
yeah,
a muscle,
yeah,
right?
You don't really use your organ. It's the only organ competition, really. Maybe a drinking contest, I guess, but
bowling's a sport.
Yes, bowling is a sport.
If there's a ball,
bowling
it's a sport.
requires touch. It requires some level of strength. I mean, you're not running, but it is a, athletic activity, in my opinion.
F1 car racing?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Yes.
Horse racing, of course, is as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Let's talk about the GOAT of competitive eating. We referenced him before, Joey Chestnut. He has won Nathan's hot dog eating competition 17 times. His biggest record was in 2021 when he ate, in 10 minutes, 76 hot dogs and buns. Buns, of course, dripping wet from being dipped in water, which you're okay with, and I'm not, but that's okay. Apparently, Chestnut ate 83 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes during a Netflix event against his rival Kobayashi. I did not know about this. This apparently aired on Netflix. It's not really recorded in any official books that I've seen. Maybe it wasn't sanctioned as an official eating competition. But very weird, right?
It's an unsanctioned mano y mano,
bragging rights. Loser leaves town.
Yeah.
It was so funny, right? But Joey Chestnut, he's really, in addition to Kobayashi, the reason. More so Kobayashi. He was kind of the first great competitive eater for the Nathan's hot dog. They really put it on the map, though. I mean, this thing's really, when it's 4th of July, it's probably the third thing people think of.
Yeah, I thought Chestnut predated Kobayashi, and then Kobayashi was the challenger to the throne.
Oh, no, I think Kobayashi was first, and then Chestnut kind of usurped him.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah, I guess we could have Will fact check it, but it really doesn't matter that much. A couple of other records from Joey Chestnut. He ate 141 hard-boiled eggs in 8 minutes. That is just staggering.
That's disgusting.
In Cool Hand Luke, isn't there a scene where he eats 50 hard-boiled eggs or something?
Yeah, it might even be 100.
Is it 100? Something like that, right? Chestnut ate 182 chicken wings in 30 minutes. Staggering.
That is nuts. I mean, just to break them down, you would really need a strategy to eat them. because I feel like it takes me 30 to 45 seconds to eat a chicken wing sometimes.
Easily. If you're cleaning that thing. Yeah. This one just bowled me over. In 6 minutes, he ate 121 Twinkies. Here's the thing, though. I'm guessing he dipped, and I'm guessing, I know, Twinkies are mostly air.
Yeah.
disgusting but incredible.
Yeah.
That was almost the title we could have done. Disgusting but incredible competitive eating.
Yeah.
Here's a quote from Chestnut. This sport isn't about eating. It's about drive and dedication. And at the end of the day, hot dog eating challenges both my mind and my body.
You know, I don't consider it necessarily to be a sport, but if you were in it, I would see why you would consider it a
You
sport.
have to.
Yeah.
If you want to commit yourself to eating 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes or 83 in an unsanctioned Netflix event against your Japanese challenger, you have to. You would have to view it as a sport.
Yeah.
You would have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly made him, wealthy, probably beyond all imagining that he could have thought from this this gift of his to really put it down. But man, I would love to have been the person who discovered Joey Chestnut, or when did you know you could really eat, buddy?
I think he just postgraduate entered in an eating contest and did pretty well, and has just pursued it since. There's that guy from San Jose, I think his name's Matt Stoney, who did the same thing. It's
some
just
people
one of
can
those
just
things,
chow,
man. It's one of those things. Women also competitively eat. It's not just for gross dudes. The female goat is a lady named Miki Sudo. She has won Nathan's Hot Dog 11 times. Her record is 51. So again, not quite the 76 Joey Chestnut did. I think when you compare female competitive eating to male competitive eating, it's like tennis, right? We're doing ourselves a disservice when we have the battle of the sexes match between men and women in tennis, right? It's just okay, biologically we're different. On the whole, most men can eat more than most women. Although to be fair, in college, I was once in a wing eating contest against this very petite Asian girl. I don't know if it matters that she's Asian, but she was very petite and Asian.
Well,
and she
Miki Sudo,
and it might have been Miki Sudo. No, but she destroyed me in the wing eating contest. I was chipmunking and doing everything I could to try and win, and she just had the form. And obviously my team, I was some relay or something, and I was put into it. And I think my team was like, all right, Jim's gonna, dog walk this gal. And she just destroyed me. And I kind of wanted to congratulate her after, but she it was like the end of Silence of the Lambs when Hannibal sort of disappears in the crowd. I never caught her name or got to shake her hand or anything. She just, I don't know that she was super proud that she, put down all those wings, but pretty humbling experience.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of the dragon I've been chasing all these years, all the huge meals I've put away and how fast I eat. That's kind of my cross to bear, if you will.
You're trying to catch someone who's already gone in the mist.
Yeah, like Hannibal Lecter, I said. Well, I just want to end really quick. I think it would behoove us to discuss the dark side of competitive eating. It isn't all rosy and buns dipped in water. The dark side is this. At its core, competitive eating encourages gluttony, which, as we know, is one of the 7 deadly sins. It's one of the works of the devil. Terrer, he was traveling with prostitutes who symbolized lust, and charlatans who symbolized pride, I suppose. And then he was gluttony and sloth, and it's sinful in many ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, we live at a time where people go hungry, and to eat gargantuan quantities of food is, in a way, wrong.
Yes, it glorifies overconsumption. I think it inspires obesity or at least gluttony, which is interesting because most competitive eaters are thin, right? But not everyone who watches competitive eating is thin. China has actually, in their wisdom ? Passed a law banning competitive eating and mukbangs, and you can be fined for it. To which I ask you, is that even wrong?
No, I think we should do that. I think there should be more laws against stuff like on social media. I don't think you need to be locked in prison, but yeah, if you make a really terrible food video where you made just a normal peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but you're eating it as though it's the greatest thing you've ever had, $50 fine.
Yeah, give the government $50.
Yeah.
It is somewhat dangerous to competitively eat. People have died. There's a whole page on Wikipedia of people who've died from competitive eating. Can you guess the main cause of death?
choking.
Yeah, choking, right? I think maybe a couple heart attacks, but it's usually choking, right? Shouldn't eat too fast. You should always sip. And if you can't sip, what should you do?
Dip.
Sip or dip. A lot of food waste, obviously, involved in competitive eating. We see this with these competitive cooking shows as well. Great British Bake Off, stuff like this. They'll say, oh, we give the food to the crew, and oh, these giant cakes that we make, you know. You can't exactly give them to homeless shelters. Homeless shelters and needy people, they don't want to just eat a bunch of sugar or a bunch of unhealthy food or a bunch of food left. Like, they don't want a bunch of hot dogs, right?
Particularly after Paul Hollywood's gone at it with that kitchen knife.
Joey's gotten water all over the buns, right? You know, like you said earlier, there's a lot of people in other countries, including our own, that starve. 1 in 5 kids in America go hungry, is the often cited statistic, and yet we have these rather grotesque displays of overconsumption. And you know, I think really food and competitive eating, like, you can sort of promote eating disorders as well. You can promote disordered eating. There can be overconsumption, eating as fast as you can, binge eating. There's just something where you should have a healthy relationship with food, right? I think it's okay once in a while to binge eat, all right? If you are celebrating something, or, you know, you want to eat a whole pint of ice cream because it's America and you want to feel free, I think that's totally fine. Now, it's an issue if you do it every single night. It's an issue if you do it routinely. It's an issue if you do it and it's tied always to your emotional state. But I'm not so against, like, occasionally living it up, right? I'm someone who's done that my whole life. I enjoy it. There's probably and have been doctors who wag their fingers at me, but it's just like, I don't know, part of my life is like, yeah, I sometimes like, you know, having the extra piece of pizza or having the extra piece of cake and eating quite a bit, and it's just something I really enjoy doing. I don't find it disordered. I don't find it wrapped up in my emotions. It's just something I really enjoy about life. But that's something I think each person has to examine. Like, is this something where I have a healthy relationship where I'm in control, or am I an absolute slave to this thing and I'm out of control, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's really well said. And I think the other side of it, though, too, is we as humans like pushing things to the absolute limit. And it's only natural that we would do that with food. I mean, probably going back to the earliest days when you killed the mammoth, I'm sure the people around the fire were wondering who ate the most meat tonight, who can put down the most meat. And I think that's just something that, you know, we like testing ourselves, we like pushing ourselves, and we like overdoing it as well as a species.
I want to turn now to a quote from former Nathan's hot dog eating winner and competitive eater Patrick Bertoletti, who said this about competitive eating. It's like controlled bulimia. It's bulimia where you get paid for it. It's me trading on an eating disorder for money. What do you think when you hear a former competitive eater say something like that?
It's just like a world that it's blowing open a door I never even thought of. I mean, you just think of this as just being very sort of silly and frivolous and on the fringe of your consciousness. It's like, oh yeah, it's the 4th of July. They're eating a bunch of hot dogs. I don't really care about that much. But then this is a very serious way of looking at it. And, you know, it's probably true. And it is remarkable that there is so much money in it. That it is something that has been professionalized to this extent. It seems almost wrong, like that it exists outside of the rare county fair where who can eat the pie the fastest with their hands tied behind their back. Like, that's what eating contests seem like to me. But, you know, I guess it's true. Feels a little more serious maybe than need be, but I don't know.
Why do you think? Well, I think it's an interesting perspective. I think it's hard-won experience and knowledge. I don't doubt that he believes that.
Me either.
And I guess to kind of wrap up, my question would be, why do you think competitive eating endures? Is it that it reflects something about humans? Does it reflect something about being American? Like, what is it about eating competitions at its core that have had it sustain for all these hundreds of years? Basically, ever since we've had, you know, people in cities and surpluses of food and feasts, and we've just had this notion of overconsumption, and in the last few hundred years, this notion of spectacle as well. What is it about it?
I think we just get carried away. I think part of the competitive eating is everybody can eat too, which is what gives us this perspective on it. Like when you say that, Joey Chestnut has eaten 182 chicken wings in 30 minutes, I think of myself, it's like, I eat 15 chicken wings and I think it's like I'm full.
Yes.
And I think that's also another thing too, that, we have this frame of reference because we eat all the time. And to see somebody do it at that level is inherently impressive. And we like these sort of, it is a bit of a freak show for sure. It's grotesque. It's a carnival act kind of. And I think that's just something that we're attracted to as a species.
There's something kind of primal about it. I think when you're a kid, just the feeling of, oh man, like mom and dad aren't home. I'm going to have a whole bunch of ice cream and my stomach kind of hurts. And just this thing of just pushing it to the limit, which I just think is kind of a primal part of our brain and seeing how far you can go. And I think when it's wrapped up with things that give us carnal pleasure, right? Mouth pleasure, which food is. There is something that's just rather primal about it. And it is a little sinful and it's very guilty. But at the same time, I think as gross as watching professional competitive eating can be, there is something in all of us. We've talked about this before. We all have a chubby little boy inside of all of us. You can be the skinniest model or the chubbiest little boy, and you have a chubby little boy inside of you, right? And I just think it's something that's true about human nature. We all like a treat, and we all like another treat, and we like to see how many treats we can put down from time to time.
It's a celebration of being at the top of the food chain.
Well, I think we'll take one last break, and when we come back, we will discuss my top 5 food accomplishments. All right, we're closing with my top 5 food accomplishments, my eating pinnacles, if you will.
This is interesting that you're framing these as accomplishments.
Yes, I guess they're kind of highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to refer to them as. But
it seems as though there's a measure of pride.
Oh, absolutely. There's a measure of pride. I was thinking about it. I don't want to encourage this. I don't, eat these exploits. I'm going to talk exploits, maybe is what we should call them. I'm not encouraging this, but I'm a guy who's a big guy. I like to eat. I like to put down big meals once in a while if I'm in a celebratory mood. And, sometimes it's fun to tell old war stories. So I'm going to tell some old war stories. And
regale us.
Yeah, so I was looking back. I think my prime eating years, it was sort of like 8th grade through college. That was sort of my prime eating years. I felt like high school was as I was going through growth spurts, I just feel like high school was maybe like my absolute prime, but a lot of these are from college. So it was like later career LeBron where you're like, I thought he already peaked. Boy, his prime, long prime, long prime.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably when most people eat the most
Yes.
if you're not a competitive eater.
So I'm going to do my top 5. I do want to honorable mention something. This is what I used to do in college. I used to do something I called one biting, where I would take something and try to eat it in one bite. For instance, a piece of pizza, a donut, cookie.
You ate a piece of pizza in one bite?
It would be like a really thin, like Domino's or Round Table, and where you can get almost half of it, like in one bite.
Right, when you chipmunk it.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm just gonna chipmunk this, give my boys a laugh, So I'd be, freshman year in my dorm, there'd be people that have pizza, and I'd be like, you want to see me one bite this? I don't know, maybe it was a cry for attention, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was good for a laugh, and the fellas, they enjoyed it, so it was a good time.
People have done more debasing things for attention.
Absolutely. It was kind of a parlor trick. It was a party trick.
It's like sleight of hand.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I'm gonna make this piece of pizza disappear.
Oh man, exactly. All right, number 5. My top 5 eating accomplishments. Number 5. I came up with little names for each one. Sort of like how Muhammad Ali, all his boxing matches had cool names, Thrilla and Manila, stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Number 5, a good old-fashioned whole pizza is what that's called. I think most people have done this at one time or another. You take on a whole pizza. I think a lot of people have done this from time to time. Have you never eaten a whole pizza?
I don't think I've ever eaten a whole pizza made for more than, not like a personal pizza, obviously. You're talking about like a pretty much a large pizza.
Like an 8-slicer, like an 8 to 10 slicer, like a medium to large pizza.
I don't think I have done that, no.
Well, I did it. Yeah. I got a pizza from Famous Pizza in Sacramento. I think this was my last day of like 7th grade, 8th grade, high school, one of those years in there. And it was the last day, and I think Mom and Dad were at work. God knows where you were. And I was just like, I'm going to go get a whole pizza and just put this thing down.
You were like in 8th grade?
Or high school. Yeah, I can't really remember. I can't really remember.
I just am dying at the idea of a 14-year-old kid walking into a pizza parlor and buying a whole pizza that he intends to consume himself.
It was not a 14-year-old's pizza order either. It was a sausage, peppers, and onions pizza. One of my favorite toppings, by the way. Sausage, peppers, and onions. Great Italian dish on its own, but on a pizza is just totally awesome. God, I put it down like a sick dog, I gotta tell you. I was in a very celebratory mood. Last day of school and kind of just those wisps of freedom. That there are very few feelings as an adult as freeing as that last day of school. Just that, like, bye everyone, bye, and you're in the car ride home and you get home and you're just like, I'm free.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to go back for 3 months.
Yep.
Like, maybe I got some summer programs, but it's like at least for a week. It's vegetable mode. So I kicked it off with the sausage, peppers, and onions pizza.
Beautiful.
Just a good old-fashioned, doughy, cheesy pizza. Famous Pizza in Sacramento. Just your classic American pizza. Shout out Famous Pizza. All right, number 4. You'll remember this one. I'm calling this one Willie's Double Trouble. This occurred at your apartment, I believe around 2017. You were gone. A lot of these occur when you're gone, and I'm kind of trying to be sneaky. But you were out. You were working as a journalist. Maybe you were doing a story or you went on a date or something. I can't really remember. And I was hanging out with your housemate, and we were sitting around watching movies, and our plan was to order from Willie's Burgers in Sacramento. A really great burger place, just classic kind of smash burgers. And this was when I was at one of my biggest. I was pretty big. And you leave, and I put in my order, and the food comes, and I eat it. And then you come back. I'm kind of telling the story from your perspective. And you kind of told your housemate to, keep an eye on Jim. He's getting pretty big. Don't let him cut loose. And, he was a little maybe nervous to kind of, say, hey, buddy, maybe you shouldn't order that, right? Maybe felt it wasn't his place.
Yeah.
So you get back, and you ask him, hey, what did Jim have from Willie's? And he kind of was rubbing the back of his neck nervous, and he was like, well, Jim, he got a Hammer 4, which is the 2-patty, 2-cheese, big burger. And you're like, all right, and what else did he get? And it was like, he got a big chili cheese fries. And I remember the thing you said was, both? And then he kind of looked at me, and I was doing a little stinker face, as I was a little naughty boy.
Yeah, that was a lot. The large chili cheese fries is it's something that 2 people can split, and that is plenty of food for them.
Oh yeah.
It's a meat exclusive chili.
Yes, it is not.
No beans.
No beans in the chili. It's just pure meat and seasoning. And I don't think they're skimming much of the fat off of that chili neither.
They are not.
There's plenty of cheese, and those fries are thoroughly fried. But you scolded me. That this was the mice playing while the cat was away. That's what was going on. Yes. Number 3, this must have been the same year, maybe the year after, Thanksgiving 2017 or 2018. We're in Bodega Bay. You surely remember this one. And I was huge. Again, not big, as we've established on a previous episode, but huge.
Huge. The biggest maybe you've ever been.
And this coincided with the biggest Thanksgiving meal we have ever had. We made the mistake of doing Thanksgiving in courses, which you just cannot do. You just got to have the meal and pick and choose it. But we started very responsibly. You made kind of like a puree, like butternut squash soup. It was a very kind of seasonal, fun way to begin the meal. And then I followed it up. I was making a lot of homemade pasta. So we did kind of this like gnocchi or homemade pasta with like a mushroom cream sauce, maybe some like sauce sausage in it as well. Really rich. Really, really, really rich.
Like that's a meal.
That's a meal. The soup almost was its own meal, and then that's a meal. And then we had Thanksgiving dinner, and I didn't exactly go light on the Thanksgiving dinner. I think I had a couple plates and some dessert, stuffing, turkey, mashed potatoes, probably more of the pasta, the gnocchi, just sheer gluttony, right? Pie, whatever else there was for dessert. And we got into the jacuzzi at our place we were staying at in Bodega Bay, and I remember I was just bobbing around the jacuzzi like an apple. Like I just was completely buoyant, and you were just like, "Oh, Jim, changes need to be made."
I remember you hoisted yourself upon the rim of the hot tub, and it was like, "This is unacceptable."
We're tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow's the first day of the rest of your life, right? It was something we've referenced before. I was so full. It was as if I had gotten lap band surgery and ignored the doctor's warnings not to overeat. That was the pressure I was feeling in my stomach lining. All right, number 2, the title of this one, Bonkers Breakfast. This occurred at Sarah's Kitchen in Santa Clara when I was in college. I went to breakfast with a friend. I went many times with my former roommate. We would go a lot, and what we do is we kind of have a nice, easy morning, and we wouldn't go to like 11 or noon, right? So you're kind of skipping breakfast and you're kind of having a brunch. You're just kind of going straight to brunch or lunch. So you're absolutely just famished, ravenous by the time you go. So I went with a friend, and this was my order. I would always get at Sarah's a Philly cheesesteak omelet. So this was a 3 or 4 egg omelet with the chip steak and the peppers and onions and a lot of cheese in it. That's a lot, right? That came with hash browns. That's already pretty nuts, right? And these omelet dishes, though, my favorite thing to get is always an omelet, hash browns, and then they give you toast, right? But I wasn't feeling toast. I asked them, hey, instead of toast, can I get a side of a pancake? I know it's not on the menu, but can I do a side pancake? And the waitress said, that's totally fine. I said, I'm going to push it. Can you put chocolate chips in the pancake? And she's like, yeah, we'll let you do that. I think I kind of invented that at the restaurant because I knew other friends who started going and doing that. And I was like, good God, did I invent this thing at this restaurant? But anyway.
You inventing getting a substitution for toast of a chocolate chip pancake sounds about right at that time.
Yeah, the pancake, of course, the size of a hubcap.
Yeah.
So I get the Philly cheesesteak omelet. I get the hash browns. I get the pancake. I'm glazed, kind of looking over the menu, glancing at it, and I see the side orders. And I'm like, I kind of want one more thing. And something catches my eye. And I tell the waitress, and can I get a side order of a chicken fried steak? And the woman just was like, yeah, sure, and wrote it down and walked away. And my friend had his fist up to his mouth, trying to stifle laughter at my order. And after the waitress left, he looked up at me and calmly repeated, side order of chicken fried steak.
Nobody's ever ordered that as a side. It's not a side. It's famously the most decadent main course of a breakfast.
What can I say, man?
That is unhinged.
That is, I would say, the biggest single serving meal I've ever eaten in my life. But it is not number 1. Wow. Number 1 is Midnight Munchie Mayhem. This also took place at Santa Clara. This would have probably been 2016. This was after a night out drinking with the fellas. We go to a nearby 7-Eleven. We live down the street from a 7-Eleven for some late-night munchies. And the important thing here to keep in mind is this probably is not the most food I've eaten on this list. But the important thing to keep in mind is I've eaten 3 square meals throughout the day. So I've had a full day's worth of food, right? At least 2,000 calories. And these days, I was probably eating more at 2,500, 3, depending on the day, right? So this is after 3 square meals at midnight, after a night of knocking a few back. We get our goods from 7-Eleven. We come back home, and I proceed to eat, after a full day's worth of food, an entire can of Pringles, an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and I wash it down with half a box of Frosted Flakes with whole milk.
That is just truly That is the most exorbitant punchmonger. That
I
is
was
just,
I was going to calculate all the calories for that, and I was just like, that's gonna probably depress me
Yeah.
too much. So maybe a loyal listener will do the math and let us know.
some things are better not quantified.
What do you think of that? Did that list make sense? Were there any you'd bump to number one?
I'd put the breakfast number one. That
You think
breakfast
so?
is just ludicrous. I mean, it is unnecessary.
Gotta be 3,000 plus.
That is 3 breakfasts, maybe
Oh,
4.
Easily.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's
stunning.
just I'm glad that I love seeing you put it away. I love seeing you enjoy food, but I'm glad those days are for the most part behind you.
Yeah, once in a while I gotta show everyone I still got my old moves.
Yeah.
I haven't completely lost it. Please subscribe, comment, and leave a rating. Send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. Thank you to our producer, Will Slade, and we'll see you next time on the Flynn Brothers Podcast. Take care, punchmonger.
No punchmonger. You take care.